Hey everybody, how's it going? It's a Daily Shooter, and today I'm coming to you guys with an Optics Planet exclusive. This is the Eotech EXPS3 and G33 Magnifier combo, OPMOD edition in flat dark earth. Let's check it out. Okay, so let's go ahead and talk a little bit about this optic right here. Now, this did come as a combo. You have the G33 Magnifier and the Eotech EXPS3-0. This particular one happens to have the green reticle. Now, like I was saying before, this is an Optics Planet exclusive. So you can see on the side of the optic right here, it says OPMOD. Now, OPMOD obviously stands for Optics Planet Modification. And the modification that Optics Planet made here is that they made the optics tan. Well, if you're somebody who's looking for black, that's not going to mean anything to you. But if you are looking for an Eotech or an Eotech Magnifier combo and you wanted something in a different color, Optics Planet is the only place that is going to have this. So again, it's a pretty cool optics combo. Again, this one right here has the green reticle and it's definitely worth checking out. So let's talk a little bit more about the specs, the details. We'll talk about some of the past history when it comes to Eotech and these particular optics right here. We'll talk about the recall, post-recall, and so forth and my experience with it. So let's go ahead and take this thing to the table. We'll talk a little bit more about it. Now, because of YouTube's policies, I'm not able to put links down in the description box like I was before. So what I did was I created my own website. That'll be the first link down in the description box. You click that, it'll take you over to my website where you find this exact same video and a different description box. In that description box, you're going to be able to find direct links, coupon codes, and any other information that you want on this optic right here. Okay, so let's go ahead and start off by talking about some of the tech specs, details, and features. Now, the first tech spec that I want to talk about is going to be weight. And that's because a holographic sight, which is what this is, tends to weigh a little bit more than its counterparts, a red dot or a reflex sight. And that's because there's a little bit more going on in here than there is for a typical red dot. So you're looking at a little bit heavier weight. If you're talking about just the optic itself, you're looking at about 11.2 ounces. And if you want to add the magnifier, that's going to bring it up to 23.1 ounces, which is comparable to, let's say, like a low variable power optic or something like that, like a 1 to 4, 1 to 6, 1 to 8. Those tend to run anywhere between, let's say, 24 ounces up to, I've seen them as high as 30 ounces. So again, for a 3x magnification right here and your holographic sight, around 23 ounces. Now, in my personal opinion, the Eotech EXPS3 has one of the best reticles of all time, hands down. And that's why so many other companies have copied that reticle pattern. But you pair that reticle, which is a 68 MOA ring and a 1 MOA dot, with such a large viewing window, and you have an extremely capable optic. The viewing window on this thing is almost 1¼ inches wide and over 0.8 of an inch tall. So it's really big. Now, the nice thing about it is with that 68 MOA ring, you get really fast target acquisition. You look through this thing, the field of view is fantastic. But if you want more fine, precise shots, you have that center dot, which again is 1 MOA. You pair it up with the magnifier, which gives you 3 times the magnification. And again, you can take this from a CQB optic, which is one of the best on the planet, and then you can go ahead, pair it with the magnifier, and stretch it out to medium ranges. Okay, so now let's talk about some of those tech specs that refer to durability, because toughness is extremely important, especially when you're spending that kind of money. You want to know that you're going to get something that is going to last. Now, toughness is one of the reasons that this was adopted by the military and why it's still in use by the military, even post-recall. Now, if you guys don't know about the recall, I'll try and explain that a little bit later, but essentially it has to do with thermal drift and parallax. But again, we'll touch on that a little bit later. Now, this is completely submersible, and it's submersible down to 33 feet. That goes for the magnifier as well as the main optic itself. Now, one of the reasons this thing is so tough is because it has a protective hood over the glass. So we have the main housing, which is inside, that houses the glass. The front glass is 1/8 of an inch thick, solid glass, and then it has a laminate back on this set of glass in the rear right here. So that's going to be nice and shatter resistant. But we have this protective hood that sits over that main housing and away from the main housing, so that if it drops, gets bumped, you know, whatever happens to it, it's going to absorb all of that shock before it ever hits that glass. So what it does, it transfers that shock instead of into the glass, breaking the glass like a lot of other optics, and it basically puts it into the frame, so into the mount itself. You can see where it's mounted right here. So all that shock is going to be transferred into the mount instead of the glass, and that's going to make it last a lot longer. You know, it's going to be extremely tough. The magnifier itself, again, is made out of a really nice heavy aluminum, and then it has this rubberized housing on it, which is going to help as well when it comes to the durability, because the rubberized housing is going to add a little bit of extra protection for the magnifier. So you have extreme durability. Now, one of the downsides to this particular optic is battery life, and that's kind of always been one of the big downsides for these Eotechs. Battery life is a little bit on the low side. You're looking at about 1,000 hours off a 123 battery. So 1,000 hours. The nice thing about this is that it has so many different settings, and the reticle gets so bright, especially for the green one, that you don't have to have it turned up as bright as humanly possible all the time. I don't shoot with this thing turned all the way up. It gets so bright that I can actually run it at a lower setting, and at lower settings, obviously, it's going to last a little bit longer. Your battery life is going to improve dramatically. So that's something to consider. It's really tough, not so good battery life. Now, when it comes to eye relief, that's another thing that I kind of have issue with. When you're talking about the main optic, the eye relief on this thing is incredible. Obviously, you have unlimited eye relief, and you have a massive window at almost, again, 1¼ inches wide and over 0.8 of an inch tall. So eye relief here is perfect, and I absolutely love it. But when you add the magnifier, you're talking about very short eye relief. On a typical scope, you're looking anywhere from 3 to 4 inches of eye relief. Usually it's 3¼ to 3½ inches of eye relief or better. When you're using the magnifier right here, you're talking about 2.2 inches of eye relief. So essentially what you're going to be doing is you're going to be sitting your face right about here on the stock in order to get the proper eye relief. When you do get the proper eye relief, you have a really nice side alignment. The reticle shows up very centered in the glass. Obviously, you can change where the reticle shows up in the glass by these two knobs right here. Now, these two knobs on the magnifier, this is not for your windage and elevation. I've seen some people who've gotten these in the past, and they try and adjust their windage and elevation through the magnifier. This simply centers that dot within the magnifier. This is going to be your windage and elevation. So you don't want to do that. If you get these and you get these as a combo, don't use these two for your windage and elevation. Use the proper windage and elevation. Now, this does have 40 MOA of travel, and you're talking about, well, let's see, half MOA clicks. So half MOA clicks, 68 MOA ring, 1 MOA dot. Obviously, with that precise dot and those 40 MOA of travel, you're going to be able to make whatever adjustments that you need for shooting out wherever you need it. I have this particular one right here set up on my SPR. It has a Criterion barrel. It's an 18-inch barrel. It's extremely precise. This is a sub-MOA gun all day long, and so I can get really nice shots with that little 1 MOA dot in the center with the 3x magnifier, and you know, as long as everything's centered right, you can definitely get the job done with it. Now, before we continue, I should make a quick correction because I keep saying 3x magnifier, and it is a 3x magnifier, but the actual precise magnification is 3.2x, so you're going to get just a little bit over 3x, and I know that's going to matter to some people out there. Now, the magnifier itself does come with a quick detach lever. It's a very simple throw lever, so you can take this thing on and off. It has a nice lock on the front right here, so that once you lock this thing down, it's not going anywhere unless you actually depress this button and flip the lever, which is nice because if it does get hung up on something like your gear or so forth, you know that it's not just going to pull that lever off and the optic's going to go flying or something like that, which is exactly the same as the EXPS3. Now again, this is the OPMOD modification, so we're talking about the tan, and then right here you can see that we have almost like it's almost like a copper or a bronze color for the quick detach. Now the nice thing about this quick detach throw lever right here is that it's flush with the optic itself. So it doesn't protrude, it doesn't stick out, it's not going to get hung up on anything at all. And then again, it does have that locking lever in the front. So you'd have to depress this and then go ahead and flip up your lever, and that's how you get it off. So you know that it's not going to come flying off. And unlike the magnifier, which does have a little bit of a hook on the quick detach lever, this one right here is completely flush. Now, another really nice thing about the Eotech optics, or at least this one specifically, is that it has an incredible amount of brightness settings. This has a total of 10 night vision settings. So it'll work with pretty much all of your generation night visions, including the original generation 1 night vision. This one right here with the 10 night vision settings also has a total of 30 brightness settings. So it'll pretty much fit in whatever environment that you're working in. You're going to be able to find the correct brightness setting, which is really nice, especially when you're talking about home defense or something to that effect, where you're going to be indoors, maybe nighttime or dusk, whatever the case is. You're going to be able to find a brightness setting that works for you when you're talking about 30 different settings. So I thought that was pretty incredible. Okay, so let's go ahead and talk a little bit about the recall. Now, I'm not going to talk a ton about it because I don't have a complete understanding of exactly what happened. If you guys want a little bit more information, just do a quick Google search and you'll be able to find it on your own. Now, there was an issue with the U.S. military, SOCOM, and Eotech, and that ended up evolving into a lawsuit where the military claimed that Eotech failed to inform them of certain flaws in their optic. One of them was the claim that it was completely parallax free, which apparently is not the truth, which I don't think is the truth for any red dot, reflex sight, or holograph sight on the market. I have not seen one that is completely parallax free at every distance. Now, at specific distances, 50 yards and out, I've pretty much seen that just about all red dots, reflex sights, and holographic sights are parallax free. But if you get into a room where you're talking about 20 feet, you'll be able to see some type of vertical or horizontal parallax. A quick way to test for that is to be able to hold the optic perfectly still, maybe set it on a table, put it in a vise or something like that, put your eye behind it, point it at one specific object. When you move your head, the reticle should stay exactly where it was on that object. It should not move if it is parallax free from that one specific aiming point that you were at. If it doesn't move, then it is completely parallax free at that distance. Well, even this one right here at a short distance of, let's say, 15 to 20 feet, I do notice a little bit of horizontal parallax. So I do get a little bit of parallax when I'm looking through it. The reticle does move or does shift a little bit. It's really not that bad, but still maybe just a couple MOA shift. Now, that was one of the issues. The other issue was thermal drift. Now, with thermal drift is caused by basically the heating and the cooling of the aluminum that houses the projector. So what happens is, as the optic gets really hot and the aluminum starts to expand, the metal starts to expand, you get a little bit of drift. And then as it cools back down or becomes extremely cold, obviously it's going to contract. So you have expansion and contraction of the material that holds that projector. And so as it heats up and as it cools down, you get a little bit of drift. Now, I've noticed that pretty much from research that I've done, that just about every optic of this type has some form of thermal drift. Some are greater than others, some are less than others, but from what I understand, the pre-recall Eotechs had thermal drift that was pretty significant. Now, I want to thank everybody very much for watching. If you haven't done so already, make sure you hit that subscribe button, the little bell notification that's next to it so you guys get updates. I want to thank all my Patreons very much for the support of this channel. If it wasn't for you guys, we couldn't do what we do here. So again, I want to thank everybody very much. Please like, subscribe. Have a great day.